Hello everyone and welcome to 2022. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and in this video we are continuing our exploration of Chess960 Fischer Random with the game Stash against Leela Zero from the TCEC Season 21 Fischer Random Tournament. It's a beautiful demonstration of the effect that a passive queen can have on the rest of your game, and it's actually a theme that we examined in Game Changer. We'd noticed that AlphaZero often seemed to be targeting Stockfish's queen in order to restrict its mobility, and we brought out a number of interesting historical parallels there. There was one game between Capablanca and Sir George Thomas, and there was also a Chess960 game between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, where the same thing happened. And well, this is again a fantastic demonstration of that effect. So let's have a little look first of all at the starting position here. Really, I mean, all of the diagonal pieces are in the corners here. So we've got the queen on A1 and the bishop on G1 and H1. In principle, it's extremely important to get those diagonal pieces active at a very early stage, because leave it a little bit too long and you really run the risk of having a piece like that just doesn't get active. And obviously the greatest piece at risk for that, or the greatest risk to your position, would be if your queen gets stuck somehow and can't get active. The knights are pretty centrally placed, so they are going to find a good spot. You're pretty sure of that. In particular, after something like e4 and then knight de3, knight fe3, you're going to get some good central control, so you don't need to worry too much about those knights. But I mean, my favourite move in this position would be well, something like a4, for example, b4. Which was played quite a bit in my engine games between Stockfish and Revenge, is definitely a very interesting idea. It activates the queen on A1, actually stops black from playing G6 because the bishop on H8 is hanging, and it also achieves the task of activating this rook, giving it access to the third rank. So I like B4 an awful lot. Other moves that would be possible are G3, G4, or f4, for example, just to open up the line of the bishop on G1. Yeah, I mean, b4 is quite interesting. I can just show you one brief extract of a game, and this was between Stockfish and Revenge. So knight fe6 was played. I mean, I don't really approve of knights being developed early normally, but this has got a very specific idea, because after g4, so Stockfish, first of all opening up the queen and now opening up the light squared bishop, Revenge was able to play g6. G6, had to do a double take when I saw that one. Queen takes h8 allows f6, followed by knight f7 trapping the queen. So in that way, black really does manage to get the dark squared bishop active, and after knight c3, f5, black's done a pretty good job really of getting both its bishops active. It's just the queen that you've got to watch out for, and well, this caused a few little problems for Revenge along the way, but yeah, I mean, also quite interesting. But I like the move b4 very much. b6 was Stockfish's choice when it was playing black. Again, just getting the queen as active as possible, as early as possible. e4 was played by Stash, which is decent in a way. It's the knight's going to come to e3. It makes sense in terms of developing the knights. Yeah, but I think it probably addresses just a little bit less the the key elements of the position, which are the diagonal pieces from the very first stages. So b5 was played by Leela, and that's a very logical move. Activate the queen and also activate the rook, and get a little bit of power and space gaining going in there. And yeah, I mean, if you manage to play b4, it's already getting to be a little bit more difficult to develop the queen, and the rook as well. So it's definitely got a big purpose. And these pawn moves in front of the rooks I mean, these are being used an awful lot by engines in Fischer Random. You know, when the rooks are on the corner files, or the A or the B or the G or the H. So definitely an idea worth looking at and investigating. So F4 was played by Stash, reasonably logical, activating this bishop on G1. Yeah, I mean, Stockfish played B3 against Revenge, and again, this is very logical, you know, just to get this this queen active. But F4 is decent. But now we get in G6, and yeah, well, we've already got a little problem with the queen here. How are we going to get the queen active? This bishop on H8 is pinning the B pawn and keeping it a little bit passive. Now, for the moment, Stash doesn't worry, just plays G3, activating the bishop on H1. F5 from Leela, and this is a super active move actually. It's activating the bishop on G8, so Black's got both these pieces active, and of course the yeah, you know, the queen on A8 is very powerful along the diagonal. So E takes F5 just allows queen takes H1, so that's obviously impossible. And yeah, I mean, you know, in these sort of positions with diagonal pieces opposing corners, it's always the question, you know, which piece is going to be attacking which, you know, and normally you'd expect the bishop to embarrass the queen on this diagonal, but here it's the other way around. Queen on A8 embarrassing the bishop on H1. Stash played C3, which is, you know, again, I guess some sort of decent move. You know, just blocking the H8 A1 diagonal, preparing to support the pawn coming to D4. It's just that you know, every pawn move like this, you start looking at your queen and you're thinking, well, when is this queen going to get out actually? Because I'm starting to get seriously worried now that it's going to be stuck forever. A5 was played by Leela, and again, you know, we're really you can really see some sort of combining here. You know, we've got a queen and a rook pushing the A and B pawns. We've got bishop pointing towards the same area, and we've got a queen that's not getting out. So, you know, I mean, already in actual fact, you know, my engines are tending to think that Black's already better. And yeah, not surprised. Somehow it makes a lot more sense. It really fits together beautifully what Black has done, and yeah, quite intriguing to see that you know, Black not occupying the centre, but really playing very strongly on the wings, opening up the diagonals for the bishop on the king side, and then pushing the queen side pawns furiously. So D4 was played by Stash. I mean, knight F2 is, I think, was probably a better move. It was played by Stockfish against Revenge, and what it's actually doing, it's actually protecting the bishop on H1, so threatening E takes F5. So, I mean, you have to react quickly like this. Well, this is maybe, you know, you're reacting just a little bit before you're ready. And well, a game Stockfish against Revenge carried on like this: bishop H3, D4, takes, queen C6, king D1, and B4 from White, just getting that queen active, getting ready to come out to C3, and the game was balanced basically. Looks a bit ropey for White, but yeah, was apparently balanced. But in principle, I do like the idea of you know, don't stay with this enforced yeah, passive pawn on E4 really, because the bishop on H1 is unprotected. You know, force Black to do something before Black's completely ready. D4 was played, and now a stunning move. I mean, this is where it really gets yeah, something that I would find very hard to ever replicate. This lovely move G5. What is the idea? Well, you're going to see. I mean, if you don't do anything with White, I mean, I'm just going to take on F4, take on E4, and then give you this isolated F pawn, which is just, you know, a lovely little bonus, which I can then attack with knight G6 or knight E6. So White takes the pawn, and now we take, and we go D5, and you suddenly realise that the point of this G5 is a little bit like a Blumenfeld gambit in classical chess. you've just basically diverted this pawn away from protection of the centre, and you're looking for e5, breaking open the position. Why would black be looking to break open the position? Well, it's just to do with the activity of the queens. This queen is buried away here, so if the position starts getting open, if we start being able to attack stuff on both wings, it's really going to be very, very unpleasant for white. The queen is doing absolutely nothing. And here again, it's always very interesting when you see a game played by a somewhat weaker engine. Stash is about 3200, and then put your own engines with with good hardware as well, but your best engines like Stockfish and Komodo and Leela, and just ask them to look at these positions. You always find that they find much more concrete, powerful defenses. And this was on my 94 thread machine, so not so different from the TCEC hardware. And here Stockfish was found a lovely idea actually. It played bishop d3 in this position, not giving the tempting check that that Stash gave. And after e5, it was playing b4. And after knight fe6, a4, really fighting fire with fire and ensuring that whatever the cost, its queen on a1 is getting active, and actually also the rook on b1. And takes. It was extremely sharp, as you can see. Just a total mess. You really would need to do some pretty good calculation there. But the the general idea, the general purpose was very clear. Don't sleepwalk into a position which gets opened where this queen is inactive. Really try with all your might to rectify that. And this was a great tactical way of doing it. Bishop f5 check, looks very tempting. To be honest, knight d7 feels incredibly fraught, doesn't it really? Especially if you're thinking about it from the classical chess kind of way, king on c8, not on its normal square. That's how you think about it. Knight on d7 pinned, bishop d7 would draw the king into the center. But of course, the pieces aren't as they normally are. In classical chess, the queen would be on the light squares ready to assist. You'd probably have a knight on f3 ready to jump into e5 to add pressure. But if you look at the rest of white's pieces here, this is Fischer Random, Chess960, they're not at all ready. In actual fact, this bishop on f5 is going to turn out to be just a huge target in actual fact. So what do you need to do here? Here in actual fact, I think what white needs to realize is white needs to get the queen free, but you've got to be a little bit clever about how you do this. If you're just going to waste tempi just trying to get the queen active, black's going to come in with e5, going to open up the center, going to be extremely dangerous. So actually the most elegant way of getting this queen free would be to castle kingside, and then you could move this rook away and get the queen out. The worst thing that you could do really would be to castle queenside, really, because your king's in the immediate vicinity. You're going to get hit by moves like b4, c5, queen c6. It's probably unlikely that you're going to be able to free your queen if you castle queenside. So castling kingside, get the king out of there, and then free the rook, and then get the queen out. That's really what white wants to do. It's actually not very easy. Knight d2 was played. b4 was played by Leela, and actually both Stockfish and Revenge think this is quite a significant error. They both wanted to play the move e5, but then again, here Stockfish was playing b4, and doing everything really to get its queen and rook free, and just keep on fighting basically. And again, incredibly fraught. Really looks very, very difficult for white. Lots of forks in there that you feel might work. A bishop opposing the queen on the long diagonal. But somehow Stockfish managed not only to survive this, but actually to beat Revenge from it. But after b4, yeah, Stockfish really wanted to play a3 in this position. Now threatening a takes b4, opening the a file and swapping off the queens. I mean, that would be a brilliant result for white. And the idea after b3 was to play knight e3, bishop g4, and white just wants to get in bishop f2 and then castle kingside. That's all he wants. Queen c6, knight f3, bishop f7, bishop f2, queen a6, stopping the king from castling, but then somehow Stockfish managed it. And yeah, I mean, you lost the d4 pawn, and the queen's still a little bit tied down, but yeah, somehow Stockfish with fantastic tactics managed to survive somehow, get its queen out, and eventually managed to hold the draw. Not at all pleasant, but again, the idea is clear, and the stuff that white has to do is also clear. After knight f3, Stockfish's evaluation just dives to the floor, something like minus 1.6, and yeah, why is that the case? Simply, actually, these pieces are going to be very vulnerable on the f-file, and that's going to interfere terribly with white's plan of castling kingside. So, and in actual fact, yeah, I guess it's maybe a little bit of a slow move as well, and black gets the opportunity to start hitting at the white position. So c5, and yeah, I mean, we're going to start getting some ideas like c takes d4 to open the c file, which could be quite unpleasant for the white king. So d takes c5 played, rook f8, hitting the bishop on f5 and the knight on f3 behind it. Knight e3 played. You desperately want to get those pieces out of the way. You just want to go bishop f2 and then castle kingside. And now some great moves from Leela. The move knight e6 first of all, which is again, just from a classical chess point of view, it feels, there's a rook on e1, a bishop on f5, king behind it. It feels so awkward. But of course, the rest of white's position is in some disarray, and this knight on f3 is also hanging. So yeah, not so easy. And also, now that d takes c5 has happened, this bishop is active. I mean, you can't play b3 to get your queen active, and of course the d4 pawn is unleashed. So the queen has also got some ideas there. So really, yeah, getting more and more difficult. And the move bishop f2 was played, king d8. A gorgeous little idea, just getting out of the pin of the bishop on f5, and you're just getting ready to take with the knight on c5. That queen is still nowhere near getting free. So g4 was played, knight ec5, castles, and e6. And lo and behold, those pieces have turned out to be yeah, in big trouble. And if you move the bishop away, the knight on f3 hangs. So black has actually won a piece with this play, and what is the what's been the the reason for it? The reason for it is simply that white didn't get the queen active early, and played some moves which which really didn't help that purpose. And simply since then, black has just done everything that it can to open up the position, and well, to stop the queen from activating itself and then open up the position, trusting that however many pawns down you are, a missing queen from white's position will cause problems. And well, that's just been the case somehow. I mean, white's been sort of forced to look for kingside castling, which is the the very long method really, but in order to be able to free the queen. But actually that's just had an effect in terms of yeah, it's other pieces, and now this bishop and knight are pinned to each other, and black is going to win a piece. Now, to be honest, when I saw this position, I didn't think that it would be so catastrophic for Stash. I thought maybe clear advantage for black, but not too bad. But I mean, Leela was already in the stratosphere, and my engines think that it's clearly winning. I mean, I thought that the slightly vulnerable black king, and there's not really a good place for it anywhere on the board. I mean, kingside, queenside, centre, it's always going to be dangerous. But of course, there is that little thing that the white king is rather weak. The pawns in front of it have moved away, and well, as long as black keeps on playing aggressively, basically white, well, it doesn't really have time to consolidate its position and then get at the black one. So knight e4, f6, h6, trying to block out this bishop, trying to make the extra black piece, pardon me, useless. But black just keeps on, aiming at all the weaknesses in white's position. I mean, g5 is a little bit wobbly because, well, we can bring a rook to the g file. We can even sacrifice and open the g file, and combine with the queen. There's a lot of tactics in there. And we're also looking at playing bishop h3 simply. So queen c1, rook c8, knight d4. The queen's finally got to some sort of activity, not very active yet. Bishop h3, and now knight df5. So Stash looking to sacrifice, the exchange. Just get rid of black attacking pieces and try and generate some play. Great tactics again from Leela. I mean, again, not taking the material, just opening up lines, and these are quite dangerous lines, really. Bishop d4, rook f5 takes, bishop e6. Black's 2 pieces up, so actually that's quite a nice position to be in, really, because it means that black can exchange off a piece for these 2 pawns, for example, and still be material up. So that's working pretty well. Stash played something quite sensible, giving a check, going after this e4 knight, which looks quite loose. But after takes, knight f6, rook e2, rook g8, queen b4, king f7. White does amazingly have 3 pawns for the piece, but black's got the 2 bishops. The white king is very exposed, and well, there's plenty of ideas of putting pressure on the king side. And of course, these pawns are way back. They're not causing any danger straight away. So Stash kept on fighting. But this move was quite nice, picking up the minor piece, then 3 pieces for the rook, which is just way too many. And well, we'll just carry on just a little bit longer to the critical moment. Basically, you just point your bishop towards the king, get your knight in, and Stash could think of nothing better in this position, with bishop b6 coming in, then giving up the rook. But of course, 2 pieces for 3 pawns is a very easy win indeed. And of course, white's king is still very, very exposed. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was very, very instructive. I love these things where one piece turns out to be crucial. And I think if ever you play Chess960, get your diagonal pieces active quickly, but especially the queen. Don't leave the queen so long that it just doesn't have a good square, because that just has an effect on what you can do with the rest of the position. And if the position gets opened and your queen is passive, we saw that in Game Changer in this lovely game Carlsen Nakamura, and we also saw this in this was from classical chess, this game Capablanca Sir George Thomas, which was a famous defeat of Capablanca against the English amateur Sir George Thomas. And there again, Capablanca quite unusually placed his queen on a poor square, and that had a huge effect on the stability of the rest of his position. And I think that's what you see here. But I mean, truly beautiful play from Leela, really quite gorgeous. And this play here, white hurrying to get castle kingside in order to free the queen, but then ending up losing a piece. I mean, it just shows again, that's a very good illustration again of the effect that the bad queen has on the position, indirectly as well as directly. So okay, hope you enjoyed that. If you liked the video, why not start the year with a like and even a subscribe to the channel? And if you're going for it full tilt, why not just order the Silicon Road to Chess Improvement as well, my new book all about engine chess and all about training with engines. But otherwise, hope 2022 will be a good year for us. Sounds like a draw again in the FRC second semi-final. And yeah, look forward to seeing you with a lot more videos. Thanks very much.